Здравствуйте. Bonjour. We're very happy to welcome you to this session on sustainable fashion. We have a wonderful panel of international speakers from Paris to Petersburg to Moscow to Almaty in Central Asia. So I'm going to present very briefly them to you. Let us start with Joséphine Riemens, who is Sustainability Project Manager at the French Haute Couture Fédération and PhD candidate at the Institut Française de la Mode in a joint sustainability chair with the Kering Group. Joséphine, can you tell us bonjour from Paris?
Bonjour de Paris. Hello everyone, I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you. Then going east, we have three wonderful representatives of St. Petersburg. Konstantine Karczmarski, advisor and teacher at the Faculty of Technology Management and Innovation at ITMO. ITMO, which is, as you know, one of the world's leading technical universities. Konstantine?
Hi, from the unusually shiny St. Petersburg.
But not only that, we have two students from ITMO who will present an eco-friendly material and they started projects, Daria, Durneva, and Vitaly.
Thank you so much for your introduction. It's nice to meet you, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you very much. And going further to the east, from Moscow, we have Oksana Kostiv, head of corporate social responsibility at La Moda, but she is offline, and so she'll say hello now.
Да, здравствуйте, коллеги. Hello, everybody.
And going further to the east, we have Anita Grey, online from Almaty in Kazakhstan. Anita, you are the founder of the sustainable fashion brand Anita Grey.
Nice to meet you, everybody. Здравствуйте, приятно.
Salem, Anita. Thank you so much for joining us. We will start this session. We will have discussions and presentations, and we thought that all the questions from the attendees, from the participants, can be asked in a final Q&A session, rather than in between the presentations and expert discussions. Let us start with the first topic, which we have called Sustainable Fashion is a Big Transformation. Some call it a revolution, some call it greenwashing, some call it a kind of chaos. Oksana Kostiv, Oksana, can you introduce this subject about this emerging stage and a little bit chaotic stage of sustainable fashion from your point of view?
Of course, thank you for this great opportunity. Коллеги, а всем комфортно, что мы говорим по-английски, потому что можно на двух языках, да? Продолжаем на английском.
I think it's better that you speak English because it was a requirement by the organizers.
Yes, Adrien. I just wanted to check with the audience because we have a few amazing guests here, and I would like to make sure that everybody feel comfortable and it's not just conversation between us like experts, and our audience can also enjoy the moment. So, if we are all comfortable with English, that's great, because something that I'd like...
The interpreters available to everyone. Is it the case? If it is not the case, perhaps you can switch to Russian for some presentations. The interpreters are present and available right now?
Okay, there is no interpreters, unfortunately, but I think we'll handle this. And if you have any questions, please address me. I'll help you locally with here. So, the topic that is really worrying me as a representative of La Moda, as a representative of the fashion industry, and being CSR leader, sustainability leader on La Moda, is as follows. I think now we're living in absolutely amazing world. Super open, inspiring, a lot of technology, a lot of fibers, a lot of opportunities. And this global world, when everybody is connected, when everybody is united, gives us so much opportunities to move forward and to move forward together. But in the opposite, what we see, we live in different countries and we speak different languages, what is happening today. But when it comes to sustainable fashion, there is no common language and there is no common background. Because every time when we say sustainable fashion, everybody, each of us, will have its own ideas, what is standing behind this world, sustainable fashion. Is it about sustainable, eco-friendly materials, or it's about ethics, or it's about working conditions, or it's about cruelty-free, or it's about charity, community engagement, and so on, so on. And what I see working from retailer field, there are brands which would like to do something, doing already great work, not always sure that they're moving in right directions. There are a lot of sustainable activists which are also doing great job promoting the best practices on the market. But it seems to me, like a retailer representative, that sometimes they're standing like beyond the fashion and sometimes pretty far from real fashion industry. And when brands are coming with their initiatives, they're like, oh no, you know, sustainable fashion, eco-friendly fibers, this is not enough. You're not doing enough. And together with accusation of greenwashing, so on, this communication is not working. And our consumers, the most important part for whom we are doing all this stuff, not only influencers, but brands and retailer, they're absolutely lost. They don't understand what is happening if brands are doing the great job. What influencers are telling us, to whom we can trust, what is really sustainable fashion. And us as retailers, we also now are obliged to find our own way to define what is it. So I think today is one of good opportunities, especially offline. I really enjoy being here offline. Let's try to find this common background, having fantastic guests from all over the world and fantastic experts, and you as people who are interested in this subject. So let's be open, let's be transparent, let's jump into the conversation. So from my point of view, small conclusion, there is now a gap and miscommunication because between all fashion players. What we can do with this?
Oh, thank you, Oksana. So, as I understand, it's more of a confusion than of a revolution for the moment. So, yes,
Absolutely. A lot of revolutionizing technologies, but which of them should we use? What of them are really sustainable? Are they sustainable? So what should be next steps? What we are doing?
From Paris, does she share this feeling of a great confusion? And what do French brands and players do in this context? Joséphine.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for this introduction. Quite very interesting and very accurate. I think, in my perspective, I would say that, of course, we share this complexity, and of course, there is sustainability is a very wide and complex topic, and we have impacts and issues all along the supply chain. From upstream to downstream. So this is a very, very difficult topic. I think what is really important and the challenge today for all the brands is to have access to data because there are too much numbers that we need to measure. This is really key to assess precisely the impact and to have appropriate strategies and to move from a strategy of initiatives to strategy of impacts. And the second one is that yes, we need to have common initiatives to strategy of impacts. And the second one is that, yes, we need to have common frameworks. We need to have common methodology. This is very essential. And in France, this is a major topic because we have a law that has been adopted last year, which is a huge steps for the fashion industry. And I will talk about it later. But we have several rules that are going to coming, and I think that this will definitely change the brand's actions.
And what makes it complex? You, in previous discussions together, you mentioned the complexity of the value chain, the challenge of traceability, and you know, this globalization. Is this adding to the confusion that mentioned Oksana?
Yeah, of course, because we have, and I will talk about it later. Maybe Adrien, if you want me to share some slides, but of course we have the issue of globalization that happened over the last decades, and we have value chains that are very fragmented, so as other industries. But I think that in fashion industry we have a very complex product with a series of complex operations, and that is one of the issue, because obviously brand don't have visibility over upstream in the supply chain, and the issue is that all the major impacts are occurring very upstream in the supply chain. So this is also a source of complexity for brands.
Yes, if you would like to show a few slides about the value chain complexities and the traceabilities, you may take a few minutes to do it now.
Yes, of course. I think I just need to be animator.
No. You just press the share screen button.
Yes, so for the topic of global and fragmented value chains, so very quickly, this is like the value chain today, but this is in theory actually, because this is a representation, and we can see that production has moved to low-income countries. So we have an increasement of environmental and social impacts over the last decades, but I think you already know. And the difficulty is that, as you mentioned, that there are so many steps of production, there are so many actors between the raw materials production and the end of the product, final product. So this is very difficult for brands to manage the impacts along the supply chains, because mostly they have visibility beyond up to tier 1. Tier 1 is manufacturing, product manufacturing. Of course, there are differences between brands because they don't have all the same purchase practices, but there is a real difficulty in fashion for traceability. And maybe I will jump with this slide on what you said on introduction, is that there is a real confusion, and there is a confusion for consumers, and there are too much labels and certifications on the market, and the difficulty is that today the consumer is not able to analyze the information and to have real decision making. This slide was just to illustrate it, because we have several pressure, both from civil society, but for consumers. And I don't know how it's happening in Russia, but in France, we have many applications that are that are emerging, same as the food industry, with rating applications on products, and both on environmental and social aspects, which is quite new. It happened, it emerged like 2 or 3 years ago. in response, we have several regulations that are coming to at the European level on green claims. So I think this is one of the response we need to have to tackle this misunderstanding you mentioned about sustainability.
Well, thank you very much, Joséphine. So I understand that a bit later during this session, you will mention the new French law and about performance, environmental performance, measurement, etc. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
You want me to stop sharing my screen, or?
Yes, I think you can stop it now.
Yeah.
Konstantine, thank you very much, Joséphine. Konstantine, what is your vision of that confusion or revolution? What is revolutionary in or not in the what we see in sustainable fashion?
Well, we're looking for a new order in this chaos, and I think the one of the reasons of this discussion is that fashion is probably the first or second unsustainable industry in the world. It pollutes, it overproduces, it creates a lot of waste, and social impact is very, very, strange. So why fashion is not sustainable? That's the big question. And it's not only and not so much because of the pollution and waste it creates. It's the consequence of the business model, which is very, very far from a creative industry. It's we should say that fashion industry, as it was built 200 years ago, as of today, it cannot be considered as creative industry. It's a financial business. So basically what we have now, if we simplify, there's one pipe of communication between designers and consumers, and who owns this pipe owns the industry. And the only reason for this business is how to create 200 million euros out of 100 million euros, adding something to that 100 million inside that pipe, right? So imagine you pick something similar in size to that pipe, say Kim Kardashian, right? And you've got tiny, spaces, empty spaces between Kardashian and border of the pipe, and you fill it with money. That's it. You block signals from everybody else, and consumer doesn't hear anything. You can give Kardashian a Nobel Prize in not only in fashion but also in chemistry, physics, or a Nobel Peace Prize, because nobody will know about other people, right? So this model came to an end. I mean, it cannot be transformed. This is why we call it a revolution or disruption, if I may. So only a new industry can be built with other stakeholders. I will talk about that slightly later in the end of the session. But it's not about transformation. It's about building a new industry. And the major factor of this novelty is that the distance between consumers and designers should become radically shorter. Essentially, it's things before they produce and before they even designed, the designer should know everything about his target audience, no matter how small it is. So we'll talk about that later, but this is one of the major revolutions. The value chain becomes shorter and shorter and shorter, but at the same time, the number of those value chains and different business models increases instead of the existing picture. So some big brands may not like it. Some big brands might want to transform themselves, but we understand that there's going to be other stakeholders, not from the fashion industry. I will talk about that later. And one of the bulk of solutions that basically creates this new industry is called Industry 4.0. And that's what nobody sees. It's what under the hood between the designer and the consumer. It's in this, it's everything. It's virtual prototyping, it's robotic manufacturing, it's generative design, and so forth and so forth. And that's a huge, huge piece of industry that nobody sees, but nobody should take care of to and participate in development. Thank you.
I see. So if I understand you, the old industry as such cannot be transformed. Only a new one can be built. It doesn't mean that the players from these old industries are excluded, but if they come in the new game, they should recombine the capacities with new players and new processes that includes consumers and designers be closer, that includes Industry 4.0, etc.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Konstantine. As promised, as announced, would Joséphine tell us about this French or European legislation that offers a new framework for sustainable fashion? Can you tell us a little bit about that, Joséphine?
Yeah, of course. I just share my screen again. I think it will be easier. This is a law that has been adopted last year on the 10th of February. I don't know if you have heard about it, but it's called the French Act of Law Against Waste and for a Circular Economy. And very quickly, this is a law that has ambition to transform the linear economy to a circular one. This is not specific to textiles. There is other industries. This is not specific to the textile industry. I've put on my screen several important measures. Maybe I've heard about some of them because we have the famous one, which is the ban of unsold products destruction, which is one of the major measure of the law. But we also have other measures to encourage eco-conception, like, for example, minimum rate of recycled materials for certain products. There is a huge part in the law on environmental information on products. So as you mentioned, there is need to inform the customers, and the law is trying to have an answer to it. So there is a first part. So it is planned in the law to have information on durability, repairability, reusability, and recyclability for consumers. And there is another part of environmental labeling, assessment and labeling, which is already exists in France at a voluntary level. For the moment, this is at the experimental stage. Because we are waiting, the government is waiting the European Commission work on the product environmental footprint, which is basically another an harmonized European methodology to assess the environmental impacts of apparel and footwear. And so the government is waiting for the moment the ongoing work at the European level. So basically, that's the big picture, I would say, of the law, but it's quite pioneering.
I have a question to Joséphine and another one to Oksana. Joséphine, the environment pro-environment activist, or the public opinion sometimes criticizes the French government for laws that are good, that go in the right direction, but are very, very insufficient to address fully these challenges of sustainability, of environment, of social, etc. Do you feel that this law is that kind? It's good, useful, but not at the level of the challenges, of the true challenges?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think the law is ambitious. The measures are really ambitious. For the moment, it's quite difficult to answer precisely because we are still waiting a lot of decrees to be published to see exactly how the measures are going to be executed. Like, for example, if I go back to my slide, for the minimum rate of recycled materials, for the moment we don't know. Kind of difficult, but I would say that this is an ambitious law, and if there are appropriate measures that follow to apply the measures and to follow the ambition, I think it's a great step, and even if it can be criticized, the French government is kind of a precursor on this subject, and I think it's good for companies because they can anticipate what is going on at the European level, which is quite ambitious too for the product environmental footprint I mentioned just before.
Well, thank you, Joséphine. That's rather good news. Oksana, can you tell us briefly, is there anything like that in Russia? Is there any legal framework, a new legal framework that is on that way, or?
So, Adrien, to be honest, the question is yes and no at the same time. Because what we have in Russia, that there are pretty much of mandatory information on the clothes about the fiber composition, absolutely mandatory, countries of origin, how you should take care of the clothes, all these small labels are also mandatory information. Moreover, our country is doing pretty much work to control the transparency of clothing flow from different countries, especially we're interested in fur and leather. But when it's come to circular economy, recycling, any kind of ratings, I think we are not thinking about this at state level pretty much at all. To give you a little bit of ideas, and I hope our audience will support me a little bit. For example, we shouldn't go far from sustainable fibers in Russia, like in Kazakhstan, like in Ukraine, like in Belarus, in countries where we are operating like La Mode and where a lot of brands are operating together. For example, there is no standard for organic cotton. So when it comes to organic cotton, in Russia, when you're a Russian consumer, you have only two strategies. You believe or you don't. And that's it. Of course, you can use foreign certificates, and this is a great way to deal with organic fibers. But when it comes to regular consumer and regular apparel, you believe or you not. And that's it. I think we're at the very beginning of this conversation with the government. Very much hope that this gap and we in Russia, we are pretty below of the conversation comparing to France, comparing to United States, might be of help. And we can use the experience of other countries and other best practices. And I very much hope, finger crossed, get good practices from countries which already gone through this way.
Well, I hope that this will be the beginning of a friendly cooperation between people like you and people like Joséphine, who can perhaps get inspired, partly as relevant, if relevant, by the French or European experience.
Adrien, I'm very, very sorry. We have a question for one of our guests. Can we ask it now, or you prefer to do it at the end of the session?
Let it be the one and only exception. If the question is short and the answer very short as well.
Hello, my name is Daria. My question is for Joséphine, and I was wondering if there are any guidelines from French government to producers on how to label their production. So are there any guidelines already in work? or in place, so that producers know how to label?
You mean label on environmental impact, or just yes? Yeah. Actually, as I mentioned, like it's the environmental assessment and labeling in France has been introduced in 20, I don't have the year in mind now, but you have several documents on the internet, and you can you have reports on pilot phase, especially you have Decathlon in France and OKD, two brands are really pioneering on these subjects, and you have a lot of valuable information for environmental assessment and labeling.
Thank you, Joséphine. Well, let's switch to the next part of our session. Oksana, you mentioned the materials. So we would like to highlight this dimension, the eco-friendly materials for sustainable fashions. We're taking 3 points of view. A French point of view, Joséphine will present to us her views about textile recycling and the prospects. Then Daria and Vitaly will tell us about next-gen clothing made from algae. And then Anita will tell us about her own vision of eco-friendly materials. Joséphine, you wanted to present to us some views and slides about textile recycling.
I think what is important to know is that in France we have the French extended producer responsibility system, which is basically a system where brands are responsible for their waste, their textile waste. So they have, when they put products on the markets, they have to pay a financial contribution to an eco-organism, which is Fashion. You can see on the screen. Which is responsible to redistribute and finance sorting waste operators, and if not, they have to put in place an individual system for recycling and treating this waste. So what I'm saying is that it's quite interesting because in France we have an important part of products in textile which are collected, but still with this system we have 38% of the amount of clothes put in on the market that are collected, which shows the difficulty, all the difficulties with textile collecting and recycling, because the two parts of the recycling process in general are really difficult today. We have a huge amount of products which are reused, but as you can see on my screen, 95% of the amounts collected that are reused are resold abroad in foreign countries. So it shows again the fact that we are not able to sort all the textile products, and it's not just textiles. This is shoes also put on the market. So it's quite interesting. And also we have we can see that the main the problem with textile recycling today is that many recycling is for downcycling applications for less qualitative products, such as felt insulation. We do not have a lot of textile to textile recycling. I think it's less than 1% in Europe. So basically, it is because several factors, because products complexity in fashion, we have products with a mix of fibers, fabrics complexity, the multiplicity of components such as zippers, rivets that are going to be to hinder the recycling process, both the sorting one and the recycling process. We have a problem with traceability, which is again very essential for sustainability and is key. Because at the end, when you want to recycle, the problem we have in France and in other countries is that we are not able to characterize homogeneous feedstocks because almost all the times there are no labels on the garments. So the sorting people working in the companies, they are not able to create homogeneous feedstocks. So this is one of the major issues, and we have technological barriers because some of recycling solutions are not industrial mature yet. We mainly have mechanical recycling. And the problem with mechanical recycling, for example, for cotton, is that you have low qualitative, this is the problem with the quality, because it shortens the fibers. And you also have the market opportunity, because if you want to develop textile to textile recycling, we have to, the price has to be competitive. So we need public investment and we need policy incentives to enhance textile to textile recycling. And just to conclude, there are some perspective for textile to textile recycling. And again, there are the development of technologies, both for the dismantling and the sorting process, which I told are very important to enhance recycling. And for the recycling, we have the development of chemical recycling for pure and blend textiles, and especially for cellulosic fibers and polyester and polycotton blends, because this is the major fibers on the market.
Thank you very much, Joséphine. I think it's a good idea to hear now a few examples of eco-friendly materials. I'm sorry not to be able to give a lot of time for these presentations, but just to give some ideas, some illustration of what is being done, what can be considered at the creators level, at the innovators level. So Vitaly and Daria, you are students at the ITMO University in Petersburg, and you are thinking of creating a startup that would use an interesting next generation new material for clothing. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure.
Sure.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm very glad to see you all here. As we mentioned, my name is Vitaly, and this is my beautiful partner, Daria. And today we want to briefly introduce you our project that is called S-Chain.
As was mentioned before, we do support the circular economy principle, but we think that it not always can be achieved because of the human factors such as busyness, unawareness, laziness sometimes, yes. And so the solution is the implementation of the biodegradable materials. One of such materials is alga fiber that has beneficial properties that protect and nourish the skin, for example. Also, it takes 80% less water consumption in its production, and also it doesn't have any chemicals or fertilizers in its growing time period.
So right now, our team is working on innovative installation to produce these materials with the usage of laser radiation. And telling about the advantages of this technology is that it's 90% cheaper and 40% faster algae cultivation. So as a result, now we're going to use these materials and try to produce our own clothes or some materials that can be used in the future for fashion industry. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, we are really welcome to answer them in the email.
Yes, and in the end of the session when we have.
Thank you so much, Daria and Vitaly, and congrats for this idea. And we wish you all the best for the startup project. And of course, if any of the participants in the event wants to connect with them, we'll help the connection. Anita, you also are working in the field of eco-friendly materials. Would you tell us a few words about it?
Yes, thank you for giving me time for that. So I wanted to say, as a sustainable and ethical designer, I've struggled all through my career at first to find solution to upgrade, upcycle, and afterwards you decide that's not enough and you're looking for solutions that are more biodegradable. So here, can you hear me? Say something wrong with my internet. Here, I just brought you 4 examples of already producing people from Mexico, for example. They're making leather out of cactuses, and Adrien and Marta quit their original jobs. And they were quite, the belief was last year that by 2020, within a few months, they wanted to produce 200,000 linear meters of this fabric. Afterwards, we have the fabric made out of spoiled milk. What's interesting, this is not a very niche, and it wasn't quite efficient back then, and I think that they moved into wool production in Italy. But nowadays, like Germany as well, producing fabric that has this nice cotton touch with like a silky look. For now, like this designer, she is based in Tuscany. So she produces this silky-like fabric out of spoiled milk. Another example is leather made out of kombucha. This was a great TED Talk by Susan Lee. Go and check her online. So she started it first playing around in her own flat, and you can see the shape of the leather is like as big as her bathroom was. And eventually it proved to be quite a good one, and she still continued working on the absorption of the in general, because even if when it absorbs your own sweat, the product becomes a little bit heavier. Another solution is orange peel made fabric that also has this silky look. And according to the statistics in Italy, every year they have around 700,000 tons of citrate waste. So the designer, Adriana, she only after their patent was released, she patented it in 2013, and in 2015, she got the award. And another one would be fiber made out of banana waste. In Philippines, in India as well, that's also their tradition that's coming back from the 13th century. And it was also very popular back in Japan. Nowadays, the fabric is actually doesn't consume that much water at the production stage, but their only downfall might be that all of the processes should be done by hand so far. And the final one would be, it's one of my partners. We're working on Aubergine Leather, and Omar, he's chef in his own life, normal life, and he started becoming a food artist. So we started experimenting because as it was mentioned earlier, with all this waste and overconsumption, there is a lot of garment that would be thrown away. And as a designer, I believe that I have the responsibility of my own products to become in trash. So starting working with trash wasn't good enough. So I want to be responsible for everything that's actually being bought from me. That's why I believe that making biodegradable solutions is the next smart step in fashion. Thank you.
Anita, thank you so much. Anita, Daria, Vitaly, I would never imagine that you can do clothing from such a variety of things, from orange to aubergine. It's really fascinating. Thank you so much. Perhaps we could, Oksana, perhaps you would like to, well, to tell us a little bit more about the concrete La Moda experience, illustrating the topics that we have discussed so far. The transformation, revolution, eco-friendly materials, the legislation, and would you like to tell us a little bit about how all this is being implemented or perceived or experienced or experimented at the level of La Moda? Would you tell us a little bit that? If I give you 5 minutes, is it okay?
Yeah, thank you, Adrien, for some questions that I'd like to discuss with you today. is how to deal where there is a gap between everybody, is still think locally, act globally is on place, or there are some discrepancies in this. And I'm sorry. And exactly, what is this sustainable fashion? Because these are three questions that are really takes my mind as sustainability leaders in La Moda. La Moda, as you might know, we are online fashion retailer. We're a fashion platform where we sell clothes, apparel, beauty, and some stuff for home. We are not the biggest, as you might know, but we are one of the key players of Russian market, and definitely one of the key players in fashion industry. Come to sustainable products, there are some categories which are super simple to identify. For example, this summer, in the middle of the pandemic, we decided that we should support charities, and we decided to launch a special section on La Moda when charities can sell their goods and get the profit. We created a lot of opportunities for charities, and now we have 9 charities sending their goods. 2.6 thousand goods were sold through La Moda, and 3.3 million rubles were earned by charities. With charities, and this is a pillar like giving back to the community through fashion. You are buying a t-shirt like you really wanted to buy a t-shirt. But when you buy a t-shirt from charity, the biggest amount of this money that you're paying are going directly to the charity so they can do their work. To identify these kind of goods is super, super easy. You just need to find partners to identify transparent and good working charities. But when it comes to something more sophisticated, I must say, when it comes to sustainable fashion, eco-friendly cosmetics, eco-friendly beauty, cruelty-free products, here it's way more complicated. But in La Moda, we really believe that this is something that we as retailers should do. And not only because we had researches and we know that our audience, and we're very fond of this, our audience comparing to other e-coms is way more sustainable and more mindful in terms of sustainability. We know it from our research. Of course, we have seen global researches when it stated that sustainability is definitely a trend. Of course, it's so good to say that sustainability is definitely a trend when you're living in Europe or you're living in the US or when you're living in Australia. It's hard to say that sustainability is a trend in Russia because in Russia we even don't have this word sustainable. When it's come to Russian language, when we'd like to say устойчивый продукт, guys, it's kind of mess. We're thinking about furniture, about something. Ответственный продукт. What does it mean, ответственный, responsible? This is a nonsense. So even when we try to communicate what exactly angle of sustainability would like to present, we should be very specific. And in La Moda, knowing that this global vision, this is sustainable product, won't work for Russian audience at all, we decided to be specific and to find categories when we can find some interesting good, already knowing that our fantastic partners, Konstantine, by the way, big brands, are already having these goods and already performing super good, having these sustainable products. So our way to sustainability was like this. We defined 6 sections which we think are important for us and for our audience. It's about recyclability, about organic and natural composition. It's about taking care about animals, I mean cruelty-free technologies, products for vegan, products that help in planet, the most challenging maybe category when the whole supply chain is covered by sustainability, is branded not using only some kind of technologies or materials, but the whole life cycle is very strong. And the last section is «Хочу помочь», so goods from charities. And when we decided that these are the categories. We should be 100% sure that we have right criteria to define which product is sustainable or which amount of recycled materials should be inside of the t-shirt if we'd like to take it to a recycle innovation, which is one of the section of La Mode Planet. Good news, for the most of our section, there are incredible, global, well-known eco-labels. For example, for cruelty-free, you might know there is PETA, and with this beautiful rabbit, cruelty-free, so on, super simple. But when it's come to fibers, it's so complicated, because even have a global organic textile certificate for cotton and for organic fibers, that doesn't guarantee okay, God's guarantee that everything is fine, but God is very high standard. And when other brands are saying, guys, we're using organic fibers, and as in Russia, there is no standard. So, as I told you, we believe or you not. So, only for one category, for recycling innovation, we were forced to create criteria on ourselves, on La Mode, and we decided that this is fair, that if at least 50%, so a half of the product is made from recycled materials or more sustainable materials like Pinatex made from pineapples, or Refibra, or Tencel Liatcel made from more sustainable viscose, welcome on board. For all other categories, for all our section, it's only global, well-known eco-labels. We have Russian eco-labels, of course, in the list of, our criteria, but unfortunately, as for now, no brands are using them. In the opposite, it was fantastic to know, for example, now we're preparing the launch of La Mode Planet in Ukraine. There is one absolutely fantastic lingerie brand in Ukraine using GOTS. 100% of their organic cottons or the textiles is certified by GOTS. The same for Russia. We're really surprised to know how much sustainable products we have, not even inviting extra partners, special partners on La Mode. And something that I'd like to show you, and I think this is pretty important. Sustainable fashion, it's not something that is made some extreme kind of fashion that you can't wear every day. Look at this wonderful picture. All of these products are from our sustainable collections. I mean, they have right certificates, they're made from well-known brands, and in plus, this is something that you can wear every day. You, like me, like all ordinary people. This is made from big brands that are doing their work pretty good. They have the commitment to the environment. Big brands, small brands. So, yes. And by the way, the last picture, it's a picture from charities. You see, from design point of view, it's like the merchandise from big brands, so you also can consider you'd like to do something better, or you'd like to do just ordinary shopping. I think the crucial point of sustainable fashion is like this. We shouldn't forget that clothes is just a clothes. We would like to cover our body with fibers and to also to present ourselves in one or another way. But doing this, we definitely can do a better choice. And sustainable fashion is only about making good choice. And sustainable fashion is when you are buying a product which is contributing to the better world, to the better planet. In terms of numbers, I think this is the most important. Because we have an idea that, you know, sustainable fashion, this is something tiny, nobody is interested, or just a few guys might be interested in this. No, guys, this is a big market, and this is growing. After 2 months after the launch, we gained 50 million rubles. That means after 2 months, people bought 84,000 goods and spent on this 15 million rubles without extra promotion, extra communication. Of course, we communicated the launch of La Moda Planet, but it's not like on TV, just organic interest of La Moda audience. And you see among top brands and top sales, there is no super special brands, super organic, super natural, regular guys, big players, but doing the job and do it good. La Moda is a part of GFG group, and we're coming to local and global connection. And GFG had businesses aware in our region. The same businesses are working in Latin America for the future. Zalora, it's Asia, and the iconic Australia. La Moda, we are covering huge territory. Our way to sustainability was to get the best practices that we have on market from GFG, from other online retailers, from our knowledge of eco-labels, but to make it understandable for our own audience. And I think this is a key. Of course, there are a lot of trends on the market, and we know them more or less. But I think what we really should do, from one side, really act global and knowing this global agenda and knowing the trends, but to measure it and to make it understandable and to make it work on Russian audience, for local audience if we're talking about other countries. All GFG regions now have these sustainable edits like La Moda Planet, but called otherwise in other market. All of them are more or less the same, but with some regional specificity. I think this is a beautiful part of fashion, that we all can be a little specific, but at the same time, having this common background, some global criteria, I think this is good. I think this is really good, and as much of these global criteria as we have on state level, interstate level, I mean connection between one country and another, that will be really good for the industry. And I think as sustainable fashion players, we all should support each other and decrease the level of hate, of misunderstanding, of criticism inside of the industry. Influencers should support brands. Retailers should support brands and consumers. Otherwise, there is no sense in other kind of discussion of sustainable fashion. I think it was like this.
Thank you very much, Oksana, for this overview. And yes, let's try to work more together. And I think there's no other way than creating bridges. Thank you. Well, we don't have a lot of time left, so let us switch to a last topic about the technologies. We mentioned the eco-friendly materials, but there's also a technology dimension in this transformation that was discussed previously. Could you, Anita and Konstantin, you have a few, you could perhaps highlight a few dimensions of this technological dimension, of this technological challenges and opportunities. Anita, would you start with the digital garments and virtual reality to the extent that it might bring something to sustainability?
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, initially I was interested in digital garments in 3D and virtual reality to avoid its own waste, so I decided to go into virtual reality. And in 2017, based on the research I conducted for over 2 years, I created a collection of garments made out of cancer cells. That was part of my state back then. So I decided to develop the patent that, first of all, would never be developed in the real world because it's unethical and they wouldn't look the same after manipulation. So I had a collection of garments, and my first question was, would people actually buy it? Like, are they crazy enough to buy it? So the price was quite high. And nowadays we see 4 or 5 years down the road that virtual and digital garments, their whole field of it, not only it's skyrocketed, people do buy digital garments. Like here we have one of the applications where you can select, choose and buy garments which never were actually existing by big fashion brands. Here we have a Gucci sneakers, which cost, if I'm correct, £12 for a pair, but you would never own one. So regarding the sustainability and 3D, on the left-hand side, you can see me trying on Gucci watch. On the right-hand side, my nephew trying on a pair of shoes. So we can say that virtual reality is a very good way for us to avoid overstock because people would be focusing and ordering exact amount of items and garments they need. So with less volumes, maybe the prices could go higher. We also see that a lot of garments are sold in games, and gaming is a big industry nowadays. So Sims 4, we have one for League of Legends by Louis Vuitton, and the previous one was, Gucci and Supreme, to mention a few. And here we have another one big player. They actually, the startup was released on the 27th of January. And they're producing, it's like the first start AI. So they generate the data of Generation Z based on their main influencers, on the main videos and games they're playing it. They make 3 items a week. And as the CEO of the company, of the startup mentioned, he said that if usually in the past, from their design stage up to the production stage, it used to take 5 months to the agreed production stage and produce their needed amount of items for a shop. Nowadays, they reduce it to 25. So it's not only time consuming, it also, as was mentioned before, we reduce the overstock. I think that's the main issue nowadays because we eliminate designers, we eliminate from the game buyers who used to have their tacit knowledge applicable while choosing a collection. So it's a lot of personal opinion, but nowadays we will have the data generated from online sources. And as the owner of this startup mentioned, he said it's like Zara meets Netflix. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Anita. So there's some relationship between virtual and sustainability, an unexpected relationship. Konstantin, could you highlight what are, in your view, some examples of technologies that would contribute to the radical transformation that you were referring to earlier in the conversation? Could you give a few examples of that? Unfortunately,
yes,
we don't have much time left, but highlight what seems to you the most transformative, with the biggest transformation potential.
Well, besides new materials and recycling technologies, there are 4, not even examples, it's 4 foundational or pillars of transformation of the industry. So the first thing that actually makes, it's 4 blocks of technologies. It's not like one, it's blocks of technologies. So the first one that actually brings designers and consumers closer together is digital twins. It's a very important thing. Everybody talks about digital twins, but the definitions are different, and there are different digital twins. So one is a digital twin of a garment, and it's basically virtual garments, digital garments, maybe called. Digital twin of a production process, of logistics, and so forth. And there's another end, digital twin of a customer. And it also has 2 dimensions. One is a digital twin of a physical customer. It's basically a 3D model with different resolutions, different technologies used to do that, and so forth. But there's also a very, very exciting field, which is called a digital twin of a personality, of the brain. it involves a lot of ethics, and it involves a lot of sustainability issues as well, because it's closely associated with social impact of technologies. So basically,
I'm sorry, Konstantin, I'm a little bit of a dummy here, but what a digital twin is one thing, and sustainability, I don't really understand the link, the strong link between the two. How digital twins in these different dimensions that you're mentioning can be a factor of sustainable fashion.
Well, let's give you an example of just one digital twin, referring to virtual sampling. So for virtual sampling, you need digital twin of a variety of feet, and you need a digital twin of a shoe. So the impact of sampling in shoe industry globally, carbon footprint is equivalent of 144,000 of trees. That's how much trees will be needed to eliminate the carbon emission only from shoe samples traveling and produced around the world before they even purchase.
Oh, I see.
Okay,
so
and for and for everything related to digital twins, the impact is that huge. Be it personality twin, because it eliminates overproduction, right? Because it's made to measure, and overproduction is currently estimated at 40% of all clothes produced. So they're basically dumped, and there are mountains and Himalayas of waste.
So digital twins is one of the four potentially fundamental transformative technologies that can bring something to sustainability. What are the three other ones?
The three other ones. The next thing is conversational interfaces and new retail experience. It's all those scanners, and it's all those methods how you interact with the customer in a mixed online and offline reality. So that's where retailers, be they online retail shops or offline retail chains, should participate, because they will benefit. Of course, they will collect all this data, and they will benefit in many ways. The third one is generative design and virtual sampling. And this is closely connected to digital twins. Virtual sampling is something that we've already explained. And generative design is when artificial intelligence helps design things. So it's not that artificial intelligence design things instead of designers, but it's a great tool to help. And it just reduces it increases the ability of a designer to create something that his target audience likes.
Mm-hmm.
So it also gives more opportunity. It's more about social impact, not environmental impact, but it's social impact in terms of creating more jobs for designers.
Okay, and the fourth one?
And the fourth one is, it's all about the machines and manufacturing 4.0. It's about native robotics and additive manufacturing. So native robotics, it's a general term for the robots that can actually, well, think. They can make decisions. For example, robots used in identifying defects in leather and also cuts them. Right, so thus reducing waste, because it optimizes the way leather is used, or any other material, and so forth. And additive manufacturing, 3D printing, and all that stuff, I think everybody knows. So we shouldn't pay more attention to that. So that's 4 blocks: digital twins, conversational interfaces, generative design, and native robotics and additive manufacturing.
Well, thank you, Konstantin. Thank you for this. We are coming to an end of our session, but we'll still have some time take some time for question and answers. Before that, I would like to to draw very brief conclusions, extremely brief conclusions, and perhaps make an announcement. The keywords I heard in this conversation, in these discussions, are such words as radicality, means something transformational or perhaps revolutionary, in spite of all the confusion that is around that. It means that technology and business models and financial interests are there and might or should be disrupted. It's not a kind of incremental, it's not a kind of evolutive, or it could be evolutive, but it's not incremental. There's something radical here at stake. And one of the challenges is that to integrate sustainability in a variety of dimensions of that. This is not only about ecology and the environment. This is also about social. This is also about ethics. This is also about health. You know, the United Nations have proclaimed 17 sustainable development goals, and this is not just one, the ecology, it's 17. So this requires a holistic approach. And here again, holistic means necessarily something radical. You also mentioned one of the keywords were data, that underlined Joséphine, and the measurement, because whatever the brands in France or La Moda or the startups can do, the impact should be measured. And probably we're extremely far from having the comprehensive and holistic methodologies to measure the impact of fashion in terms of sustainability. Holistic also means that we have to take into account all the chain, from the designers to the retailers. This includes the manufacturer, the logistics, etc., and the communities and the supply chains around that, and the consumers. So all this is very complex and confusing. A little announcement regarding this complexity. Konstantine and myself are part of a Swiss non-profit, a foundation under formation that is around resilience, sustainability, and innovation. And one of the working groups in this foundation is about sustainable fashion. The goal is to gather industry players, investors, experts, sustainability experts, public authorities, innovators, to think and act. This means collaboratively identify or create the needed methodologies to transform the industry, and to have players of this industry have some guidance, some guidelines on how to integrate all this complexity into tangible and workable methodologies. It's about incubating projects. It's about identifying best practice and leveraging on them in a very open and collaborative way internationally. So I believe that this might be a contribution to addressing all the complexity and providing very useful and practical tools, methodologies, and networking and financing and innovations and technologies to all players who are sincerely committed to moving forward in the field of sustainability. So this was a little announcement. If any of the participants in the events are interested in knowing more about it and potentially participate in this working group, you are more than welcome, and we will discuss it in more details. Now, let's keep. Let's hear the questions from the participants. We have probably the organizers can give us 10 minutes for that. Is it okay? Well, I hope it's okay, and I'm declaring it's okay. I'm proclaiming it's okay. So go ahead. The questions from the participants, from the attendees.
Hello again. This is Daria again, and I was just wondering about if the sustainable products have higher prices, and if they do, what's the spread between regular and sustainable pricing?
I can answer if you don't mind, because I have this data.
Please go ahead, Oksana.
So, with these sustainable products, what we find out after a couple of months after launching La Moda Planet, this is something incredible. Because first of all, first key learning, there are a lot of mass market players like Zarina, Benetton, so on, who meet the criteria, at least for recyclable materials, which is absolutely fantastic. So you can buy something affordable. It's even better in terms of beauty, because Natura Siberica, L'Oreal, so on, mass market brands are doing a great job here, and also can be treated like sustainable. Of course, looks players are also interested and investing into sustainability. And of course, you can find like Adidas by Stella McCartney, which the price is couple of times higher than regular collection of Adidas. But when it's come to general, when we take the big amount of items of SKUs, it's come that the price are regular. So these products, sustainable products with eco labels, which have gone through verification, they are more or less on the same price. But what is interesting, in terms of retailer, they are way more profitable. We are considering some parameters like returning rate and conversion. And returning rate, it means that as La Moda we have the option to try. So you can send the parcel to your client, and if he or she don't want to buy the items, so she can make a return. The return is lower. The conversion on the site is higher, and in general, after 2 months, the sustainable SKUs that we had are 36% more profitable for retailers. We really don't want to say this to other e-com players, so let's keep it between us. But really, this is something that we should consider. Of course, 2 months is not big time for final conclusions, but first data is pretty optimistic.
Joséphine, would you like to add anything to Oksana regarding the question?
Yeah, regarding the price, this is something again related to measurements. I would like to make a quick parenthèse, we say in French, but I'm working on the PEF methodology within the Federation, and the price is a huge question. Do we consider durable products with a higher price? Meaning that do durable products have higher price? And this is when we want to assess durability, this is a huge question we have and no answer for the moment. So quite interesting, because the scientific research showed that higher price products lead to better care and more durability and more responsible practices from the customers. So interesting, but from the point of view of research.
How interesting. Thank you, Joséphine. And I think that Vitaly and Daria could say that their material can be very competitive in terms of cost.
You really hope so.
Yeah, I believe so, and I can add any comments if you'd like. So yeah, the reason for that economy in the material of alga, that it's very compact in the production. So we don't need a very big field for the cotton, for example, preparation. And we don't need to wait for season when let's say, when the fiber grow up. And yeah, it's very short in time, and it save everything. It save money, it save time, as I said before. So it's very comfortable for the producer to use it.
Thank you, Daria. Is there any last question from the attendees?
No, Adrien, I think we're done here.
Well, thanks to all these wonderful speakers from almost all the corners of the continent.